I have a lot of film cameras, maybe too many. Some are very well known and well documented, with reviews and manuals galore online. Others are still undiscovered, unknown, undocumented, and unreviewed. Which brings us to this, the Mamiya-6. The Mamiya-6 was a series of folding, medium-format rangefinder cameras made between 1940 and 1960 or so, by Mamiya in Japan. There are many variations, but the standard configuration involves a 75mm 3.5 lens, in this case a Zuiko. This isn't the rarest camera out there, but all the different models can make it hard to find information. I'm not going to cover all models, just this one. This is a later model, a Mamiya-6 Automat, I believe made around 1956 or so. The automation refers to is simply that the shutter is cocked as the film is wound, something we'd probably take for granted today. On earlier models you had to cock the shutter every time. The lens has shutter speeds from bulb all the way up to 1/500th of a second, and apertures from 3.5 to f/22. In my opinion, not bad for a camera that is 65 years old. Speaking of which, I think this is a rather good looking camera. A lot of medium format cameras are very chunky and bulky, and this one will fit in your pocket. Unlike most cameras that focus by moving the lens back and forth, the Mamiya-6 focuses by using this knob to move the film plane back and forth inside the camera. This is especially handy for zone focusing before you deploy the camera if you're walking around with it. You can see your distances on this wheel. I would add that the rangefinder is very good, I just don't have a way of showing it on this video. As you can see, this shoots a 6cm by 6cm negative. Here it is compared to a 35mm negative. Since buying this camera, I've become quite a fan of the square format. It's the perfect shape to post to Instagram and places like that, if that's your kind of thing. I picked up this camera while home for Christmas in Baltimore, and took quite a few pictures around town with it. I'm by no means an expert with sharpness and such things, but I really like the quality of the images it turns out. I only had black and white film on this trip, so I can't exactly say how this camera renders color, but I really enjoy the contrast and everything of this lens. I do believe the rangefinder of this camera is properly set up, but being new to it I didn't always nail the focus. It's something you have to consider. I would also add that this camera is manual in every way. No autofocus, no meter, no automatic exposure, so your exposure will depend on either using Sunny 16 or a handheld meter, or another camera, but either way, it's up to you. So why do I like this camera, and why might you like this camera? Well, for starters, the size. Here's the Mamiya, and here's my Kiev 60. A pretty big camera, but not the biggest medium format camera around. Not only is the Kiev bigger and heavier, but also shoots a smaller format, 645. And here, for comparison, is my Nikon F4, which only shoots 35mm, and isn't big by modern DSLR standards, but still huge compared to the Mamiya. This and the fact that it folds mean that you can put this camera in your pocket, which is super convenient, especially compared to most other medium format cameras, which are very hard to carry around. I would also mention that the leaf shutter in this camera is very quiet. I'm holding it right next to the microphone now, and it's exactly this loud. This means that you can easily take pictures sort of incognito. On top of that, it has a modern sync system, X, M, and F, with X being the modern system. This means that you can add a flash and sync at any speed. By comparison, the Kiev I just showed you has a sync speed of a 30th of a second, which is pretty slow. On top of all this, there's the price. A new Mamiya-6 will cost you $500 to $2,000, as will the Mamiya-7. Even the Fuji GA645 will cost at least $500. I paid about top dollar for my Mamiya-6, and it cost me $200 for a very, very clean model. You can easily find one worse off than this for $150 or even as low as $100. Just make sure the shutter speeds work. The other thing you have to watch out for is ripped bellows. Mine were in shape when I got it, but after using it after it had been sitting for some time, mine ripped. I fixed this with some electrical tape and will probably look to get leather replacements in the future, but it's not a big deal. As for dislikes, there's no real good place to hold on to this camera. If you look at it, there's no lugs, eyelets, or anything for a strap. You just kinda have to hold on to it. The previous owner added this bit of putty, and I wish I knew what it was, because it does a very good job of giving a hand grip. Well, that's my review. The Mamiya-6. Small, light, portable, and taking very good images. I think this is the perfect camera for someone who wants to get into medium format on the cheap, or someone who wants something smaller than the professional cameras out there. This is my first video on the subject. I hope you like it. I hope to make more in the future.